My name is Franny Drummond. I am a custom painter, airbrush guy from PA, and I custom paint. I am a self-taught guy. I used to, well, all we had back then were magazines. So I kind of looked at a lot of magazines, got inspired by magazines and people in magazines, and I went to art school in Miami and took commercial art. They had airbrushing, photography, and stuff like that, but the custom paint end of it was more self-taught. So I kind of just trial and error. I think a lot of us guys, us old school guys, do that. Well, I got bit by the custom culture art bug by magazines. Being a little skate rat, skating around, Jimbo Phillips and guys like that inspired me to want to just draw on a skateboard or paint on a surfboard. Those kind of guys that that artwork on a skateboard really just inspired me to want to become an artist in general. Whether it's a surfboard or skateboard, I just wanted to paint something. So that's kind of where I got inspired from. That's really where it started for me. That the surf industry and skateboard industry. I work in automotive paint. We use BASF, Diamond line. It is incredible custom paint line. A lot of people don't know it. We've used House of Color and PPG. There's so many great ones to think of, but for me, I use a lot of different tools to kind of do the job. We're sponsored by Sada, and once I got a Sada airbrush and spray gun in my hand, I was hooked. So we use a lot of Sada products. Really anything to kind of help us get the job finished. We kind of use whatever tool that makes our job easier, to get it finished. Like pinstriping, I love. There's certain things that guys like to use, like whether it's Max. Mr. Oz has a new brush out that's phenomenal now from Mac Brushes. So I've used that a lot. I've been using Excaliburs my whole life, so I love the feel of it. I love the way it pulls, but I guess it's really like anything. Like guys have guitars that they like, and whatever works for them really works. But I've used Excalibur brushes my whole life. And paint, I use House of Color striping urethanes on all my custom paint jobs. And then I started using a lot of the stuff for like doing old hot rods and things like that. I use Alpha, and I use One Shot. That's a great question, because we all like to improve on a lot of stuff. I think with me, I always like to look at other artists and kind of push off of them to inspire myself. I could think that I'm the greatest pinstriper in the world, but then you look at someone like a Hot Rod Jen, and you're like, well, I need 10 more years of experience to keep this going here. But I think with anybody, if I could tell anybody, is learn all mediums. Like I feel like I kind of, my craft is airbrushing and custom paint like that. I do pinstripe. I love it. I don't think that I'm the greatest at pinstripe. I love it. Goal leafing, I'm always working on that. I think any artist that is watching this will tell you they need to improve on every aspect of what they're doing. Because if you stop or slow down, then you might as well get out of it. Yeah, there's a lot to learn in custom painting. Like when we do classes, it's always hard to really focus in on one thing, right? So, like when you're learning how to custom paint, I always ask someone, like, what do you want to learn? Because with custom painting, do you want to learn how to pinstripe? Do you want to learn a little bit of how to airbrush? Because some guys don't know how to airbrush, but they want to I just want to add it into my arsenal, right? You want to add pinstriping or airbrushing or whatever into your arsenal. We'll pick it up and start playing with it and start messing with it. I always say to try everything. I mean, you can't stop learning, right? So with airbrushing, you can fade lines, you can, add shadows. There's everything like realistic flames with the stencils. You don't have to always do a portrait, right? Like to become an airbrush artist. I think there's a lot of good airbrush guys that are actually phenomenal, like lowrider guys that don't even paint a portrait. They do their fades with the airbrush or miniguns. So, that's a tough question because there's so many. It takes a while to perfect each skill, and if you stop, like I said, you're kind of like hurting yourself. I think when I first started becoming a custom painter, it was figuring it out, because a lot of us guys never really dabbled. Well, most of us guys, like I never came from the body shop end of it, so I never knew how to do body work. I never knew how to do any of that. So I learned off a lot of old school guys that taught me how to do body work, to do your own tanks. And you don't ever really want to touch, let anyone touch your stuff. If you can do a tank and you have a customer that comes in, you to me, as an artist, you would want to touch everything from the body all the way to the finish work and buffing, and everything to a custom paint job is important. So I try to work on everything, honestly, if I can. The most difficult part of my career now would actually be finding something new, like the stained glass stuff that I've been doing. I sat down there and I'm trying to get inspired. You're looking at, which is fantastic because nowadays we have the internet. We didn't have the internet back then. We had magazines. So a lot of the magazines never showed you half of what they did. So you had to guess and make it a whole, right? So you had 15 pictures, and then it was, they skipped 20 to get to the end. And you're like, well, how did they do that? So for me, always learning. I always try to surround myself with good people, great artists that can inspire you and push you. That's what I try to do because, a lot of stuff's been done, the lace work and the fish scales, and what could we do that hasn't been done? Or, how do you reinvent yourself? It's hard. As a custom painter, you always want to try to find something that inspires you or pushes you to the next level. And I thought like the stained glass one was kind of cool because I'd never really seen it. So it was something that was different from doing like a traditional like lowrider or lace job. That's kind of a funny story. The stained glass kind of came about where I had this little tank that was $50, and I metal flaked it, and I had it sitting there for a year. My grandma had passed away, believe it or not, and she left me this little Blessed Mary. And I remember going to my grandmom's house all the time, and she would always have church. She was an Irish Catholic lady, and she'd always have church on TV, and I'm like, man, like, what could we do on this tank where I could mount this Blessed Mary on there to honor her, and stained glass, because you can see the metal flake through the candy, right? And it's not lace or it's not anything else. It's something different that is unique, and I've been really dabbling with the grinded metal now underneath the the candies to give it a stained glass look too. Something that gives that reflection of the windows and the stuff. But that was my inspiration, was actually my grandma. It was overwhelming, honestly. I remember talking to Brian from Painthuffer, and he's like, what do you got? I said, dude, I think I got something different here. Like, I think I got something. I would send him pictures like, dude, can I just post this? And I'm like, well, let me get it finished first. And I didn't know much about, I stink at social media and all that crap. So like I sent it to him, and he put it up, and Bry's got a huge following. So he's like, man, this thing got like 10,000 views. And I'm like, what? Like, are you serious? He's like, people like it. And I'm like, whoa, like maybe it's something that would stick in the custom paint world. People ask me all the time like, how do you do it? And I always tell them how I did it, and you always want people to improve. Yeah, so we do have a up and coming show. I get to work with some incredible artists, which honestly I'm like a fan, and excited to work with these guys like Tim Lowers and Hypnotic, and a lot of these Tukey. Never got to work with Tuke, but I did one out in Indiana with Austin, Poland, which was super fun, super rad. The students were super receptive to what we were doing in Intro to Custom Paint. This one's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I never got to work with Taylor Schultz either. I'm dropping these names because I'm fans of these dudes. Like we all kind of we all do our own little thing in the custom paint world, but we all keep an eye on each other, if you can say, and we're all fans of each other. And I think that's what helps us push the custom paint world, because that's really what I'm excited about, is working with these guys and see how they teach the students too. So maybe we can learn off of each other. But hopefully everyone comes out and likes the event. I think I didn't really go over that too much with Brian, but like we'll probably do a little fill-in with everybody, depending on how many students we have, because with me, like I'm a versatile in different mediums. So maybe I can help with Schultz or someone like that with, but I think airbrush is what we're going to do, me and, Hypnotic and Andrew and stuff like that. We can work in the airbrush media. The Trippy 10, that's a really cool show that we got invited to, which I'm finishing up the helmet now. I'm a little late, but, I'm excited about it. It's a bike helmet show kind of, and it's like an art show which has bikes and or motorcycles, and there's some really cool artists on the bill, and that to me is an honor for me, like Scratch and all these dudes that you look up to. It's a cool event. It's like an art show is basically what it is. So I'm going to try to bring my best foot forward on that one. Hopefully we'll like it. Obviously, I think every artist has a little pressure on them, and they'll probably lie to you if they don't. I've been talking to Gibson here and there, and we've been sharing pictures of our helmet to try to push each other. And I've seen a lot of the artists pop up, but I think that is like a good question, because you do feel a little bit of pressure to try to keep up with some of these guys and what they can do and what they can bring to the table, because the way the industry is going and growing, there's so much talent out there. There really is. So you always got to try to push yourself a little bit. Well, I'm a pretty humble guy. Like I think we've done a pretty cool amount of accomplishments in this industry, and has given back to the industry, which I always say, because there's a lot of people that that been in it that haven't really given too much yet, but they're pushing, and they got a lot of following, a lot of social media following and stuff like that. So for me, I love to keep advancing, honestly. So OCC, we got to work with OCC. I got to work with so many amazing, talented people with that. It was an experience, right? So I kind of got to work with a lot of these incredible bike builders, Josh and these guys. To actually paint on their work was an honor itself, because the metal that they were bringing to the table it didn't even need paint. You just wanted to leave it bare metal. So it's a work of art in itself. But the experience that I had was, I was there about a year and a half, and working with Jason and Phil and these guys, Paul Sr., they really made you feel at home. They really did. We got to become like this small little family that kind of helped each other out when there was really, really tight deadlines. I never really was into the whole reality thing, but once you start to get into the mix of being with your buddies and stuff like that. It was fun. It really was. The cameras weren't always on all the time. A lot of times, like, they left at a certain time, 4:30 or whatever, so we could really get down and get dirty with some, the artwork or paint work. That's when most of the time you could do your real work, because under the cameras, a lot of times, most artists will tell you, you're redoing things, or hey, can we do this again, or I'm no actor. So I don't really know how to like work in front of the camera that great. So I think, that was a learning experience anyways, trying to figure that one out. Like, I just wanted to paint. I think, good question. I think I learned a lot off that show. I, I feel, I feel, as an artist now, I just really want to do my own thing. And if someone asked me to do a show, I'd think about it. But it's really about growing as an artist now for me. I'm getting older. I'll be 49 years old. And I just want to do art. I want to paint. I want to lock the shop up. I want to just do and be creative. My wife's laughing at me because she knows that my brain just goes into 100 different directions. And I want to just create a whole bunch of different things at one time. So for me, the show thing, is not as much fun as anymore. So I got to paint masks for these guys from a charity event. I met a guy who's always been a hockey guy. I played hockey since I was little. So I was a goalie, and I always wanted to paint for the NHL, right? I've done some college stuff, but never NHL stuff. And I thought, I emailed back then because obviously the YouTubes and stuff weren't around. I emailed this guy, Riley Cote. He was like our Broad Street bully guy, fighter. Everyone knows Riley. So I emailed. He had this really amazing carnival for his sister to help MS. And I did this panel of Dave Schultz and him kind of squaring up with Rocky, and it was an awesome panel. And we got them both to sign it, and he auctioned it. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey man, do you paint for NHL goalies?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Well, do you want to?" He says, "We have a Winter Classic coming up, and Ray Emery would love you to paint his mask for him." I'm like, yeah, okay, right, sure. And he called me. And from that point on, I mean, it worked out. I met, Derek Settlemeyer and a lot of these Flyers guys, and was able to live my dream through the Philadelphia Flyers. I worked for other teams, but my heart was always with my team. So I still do Carter's now. I can't wait till people see Carter's this year. Absolutely. I can totally commit to that. I will not. Well, my buddy retired from the Penguins, Dana Heinze, and he used to like always ask me all the time, and I was like, if I paint a Penguins mask, my house or my shop will get stoned. So yes, I can make that promise. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good ones. I mean, the custom paint world has grown so much to me, from the magazine end of it to now social media. You get to meet all these amazing artists. As far as shouting out people, I mean, there's so many great ones. I mean, I get to, Stephen Gibson, I talk to every week. We inspire each other all the time, and I got to work with Mr. Oz on OCC and the Brushmasters, and the Godfather is Ron Fleener. He's the Godfather of custom paint. Like he inspires all of us guys. He always says he's the old guy, but he's the Godfather of paint. I love him to death. So as far as like some of the other, I mean, dude, Buck Wild. Like, I got to work with Buck and Austin Poland, like insane helmet paint, NASCAR, and like there's so many incredible painters. Nubby, like, you could just go down the list of like Kyle from Execution and all these dudes that like you look at what they drop out on social media all the time, and you're like, what? Like, how many hours? Like, I know from custom painting how many hours that these guys have into that. So I think what brings us all together is social media. right? Social media really kind of brought us all together. It gives us a good format to talk to everyone and keep in touch with everything. Darren McKay, I mean, legend. Like, yeah, I met him at the Brushmasters, and we still talk. And guys like that, Josh Culver, like, I could go on and on. I mean, I hopefully no one gets mad at me for not mentioning their name, but like, people know that, you're fans of their work, and to me, they inspire me all the time. There is so many. Like, I watch, so I always, your question from before, you always want to like improve each aspect of what you're doing, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm a jack of all trades. I can pinstripe and do whatever, but a master of none, right? That's how I think. And I think, to me as an artist, that's a great mindset to have, because you look at someone and you watch, like, I met Hot Rod Jen, right? And you watch her pinstripe, or Beth, and all these people that you look and you're like, that's one aspect of custom painting, and you're going, God, I would love to pinstripe as clean as that. And then you look at nubs, like, the women end of it is just insane now in the custom paint world. But like, you look at the men part of it from Nubbies and Mr. Oz, and you watch how they pinstripe. To me, I would really love to learn more of that end of it. I love the scroll work, but it takes me a little bit longer than these guys, because it's just, airbrushing was my thing. I've always picked up an airbrush, and I could pick up and go to town. When I pick up a brush, I'm always overthinking sometimes, but it's watching these guys that just make it so fluent and so easy. Yeah, project. I feel like, I was able to, like, we dropped names, so I was able to meet a lot of these artists and be inspired by them. So, like, to be on some of the levels that these guys are, and I forgot to mention, one of my best buddies is, Lucky Strike, Mr. Lucky Strike. I didn't forget about you, Jeremy, you're the best. But as far as, like, my projects, I feel like the stained glass one really helped me push to, I think a lot of people didn't really know that we painted motorcycles until that little $50 tank came out, and they were like, whoa, like, hey man, that thing's super rad. You do candies, and you do, well, I've done that for 30 years. So, I'm not very good social media guy. So I think that really kind of helped us push. But a lot of people don't really realize, like, they think we're just helmet painters, and we do, like, the Naval Academy for the Army Navy game, and we do flyers mass. But my heart's always been in motorcycles. I don't ride, but I've been doing it like 28 years, and for me, they're works of art. Rolling billboards that, if you get a person that you could, oh man, this builder's insane, I want to paint his bike. And that's really what, it's a team thing, and most custom painters will know that, it's a team thing. Well, it's personal because, like, my dad and my grandfather and grandma were all Marines, so the Army Navy game is very personal to me. To get to put these helmets together every year, which I'm honored to be part of the history of that game. That right there is it hits home for me. It beats all the hockey stuff that I've ever done, and I love the Flyers, and I love all that because I was a kid running around like Bobby Clark. But that game, to be a part of that game, is probably the most special part for me as a custom painter. The dream project, yeah, I mean, that's really hard to say because I have a lot of dreams. So I think us art brains really want to paint a whole bunch of different things. Like, the sports end of it is really special to me because, my son loves football, and to be a part of that game is just a small part of that game is special to me. But a dream one, I mean, there's so much to dream about in the art end of it. Like, you want to be able to inspire other artists. So I think inspiring other artists and someone coming up to you and saying, hey man, I really love that stained glass tank, dude, it's killer. That to me is a dream project, right? So like any project that you do, to me, if it inspires someone else, it's a dream project to me. Well, I don't work in the store, which is probably good to everyone that I don't work in there. I have my beautiful wife that does that. We decided we were sitting out drinking Starbucks, and we were sitting outside Ron John Surf Shop in Cocoa Beach, and we thought it'd be a cool idea during COVID to start the electric circus, which has been very chaotic. Because we've learned so much about retail, and thank God I have my wife, because I would have probably had less hair than I have now. But it's exciting. We are very excited because we're going to Surf Expo coming up next Wednesday, and we'll be able to carry a lot more brands, like all the surf brands from Billabong. But our goal for the store, I think, she would probably be better off to tell you this, but our goal for the store is it's all about like people. It's a slash art gallery, custom culture. We have a lot of like, you know, she's brought in a lot of women's clothing and sundresses. It's a really cool skate, surf, beachy kind of custom culture. It's hard to really say what it's all about, but it's gnarly is what it is. I think it's pretty cool when you walk in and it smells like sex wax in there, and you're like, whoa dude, like it smells like a surf shop. I think that's a really good explanation of what we're trying to do, because we're going to have a lot of different artwork. We're starting on some new classes soon coming in. Come the new year, we're going to start doing art classes. And we're going to throw them at PaintZoo, but we're going to, you know, you have to register at the Electric Circus because we have a bunch of art hanging in there. And, you know, it's just a cool vibe. It's something that I think our area needed. And I think, you know, the hot rodders to, you know, the wives will love it. "10 years. Retired. Hopefully the store takes off and makes it. No, honestly, I love what I do every day. It's a gruel, and most custom painters will lie to you if it's not. It's a sometimes 7-day week job. 10 years from now, I'm gonna be right here doing it. I love what I do. I love to learn. Love to create. I think when I go in the house just to watch TV, I bring in my iPad because I'm wanting to do something else that's custom, you know. So 10 years from now, hopefully I'm still doing it. Well, Franny the artist. Let's go there. Franny the artist is a guy that was inspired by likes of like Ed Roth and Von Dutch and those kind of guys to kind of keep the legacy alive, right? So as far as me being an artist, I just want to create cool stuff. Always try to push the levels and inspire people. Me as a person, husband, you know, father, that kind of guy. I love my family. They support me in every aspect of this. And they always have. My wife, Amy, she's, you know, I'm going to get upset, but she's inspired me to push my level even higher, to, you know, start to get out there. Like back in the day, you know, we all go through rough times, and I had rough times, and yeah, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, man, I just want to go get a day job. I don't want to create no more. And when I met her, I really focused in on, you know, my art, you know, getting back to what I love to do. So, you know, and as a dad, I mean, you know, I have stepsons now, and my daughters are like my one daughter, Allie, she's going for teaching and special ed. So like, and my other daughter graduates, and it's just amazing. My stepson's, you know, he's working at his dream job doing, you know, cars that, you know, I couldn't even think of even affording right now. So, give props to him and following his dream. But we have great kids, and I'm super inspired by all of them. So, and they always push me to become a better person, and I think that's as far as me as what I am, no matter what. Art is just something that I like to do, and it provides for my family. Closing comments. No, I'd like to thank you. I mean, I love your mag. I mean, it's something that we as we've talked about this. Gnarly Magazine is one of those magazines that you pick up as a young kid, and you look at it and get inspired by not just an airbrush guy, but a pinstripe guy or a pinstripe girl or a custom painter. Or even someone that's just doing like some killer shoes, on Vans and stuff. It's a custom culture magazine, and I just want to thank you guys for even having me on here, and I appreciate it.